So one of the things people often talk about with regular face-to-face teaching or working for a school is the fact that the hours can be horrible
Yep.
or unsociable or challenging. For example, I think my second year when I was teaching abroad in the Czech Republic, I had split shifts a few days a week. So my first lesson was 7 o'clock. Actually, it was 6:15 in the morning. Finished at 7:45, I think, and it was still dark when I finished that lesson
In the morning.
in the morning.
Yeah.
And then my last lesson finished at 9 p.m. at night. So I had actually quite a big gap in the middle of the day, but I couldn't really enjoy it because I knew I had to go into it.
You have a
I
lesson.
had to plan and teach those lessons. So how's it different online? Is it better?
Well, the difference is it's down to you. I mean, when you work in face-to-face language schools, you just get given your schedule. Hey, Chris, here's your schedule for the week. Tough.
Yeah.
And so online, the difference is that you can control your own schedule. So that creates lots of opportunities, but it's not always. People often make some fairly rookie mistakes with this. And I remember one student in particular, Wes, who did phenomenally well, and he completed our program, and I remember talking to him about 6 months or so after he graduated, and he was super happy. He was fully booked, and he said, "Yeah, Ollie, I've got all these students. I'm so happy." And I was asking, "Okay, so tell me about these students." And he said, "Oh, we've got lots of students in China." And I said, "Okay, but you're in the east coast of the US. So how does that work time zone wise?" And he said, "Well, I've got one student at 1 a.m. and then another student straight after at 2, and then someone else at 4." I was like, "How are you, really? How are you? When are you sleeping?" And he said, "Well, just in between, really. Whenever I've got a bit of time." And it turns out that what he did was he was so keen to attract new students that he just set his booking calendar to blanket open
24 hours.
24 hours a day, and so students could just book whenever. And so he was a little bit too enthusiastic.
Yeah, he was excited he could get lessons, but yeah. So how can you avoid that? How can you design your dream schedule?
So step number one is you've got to decide what hours you want to work, and you've got to realize that if you set your calendar to open across the board, it's not going to be healthy. And most people realize this intuitively, but they also, there's a tension there because you want to get as many new students as possible. You don't want to shut doors before they're open, but you also need to maintain some semblance of a lifestyle. So step one is to decide, when do I really want to teach, and when is it going to fit my lifestyle?
How many hours is kind of reasonable, do you think?
I mean, everyone's different. I mean, I'm a bit of an early bird these days, so I tend to wake up early and I do a lot of my work early in the morning. I find that I just kind of zone out towards the end of the day, so I much prefer working in the morning. Other people, I find, especially people who are transitioning into teaching online, they have a 9 to 5, and so sometimes people want to do an hour or so in the evening when they get home, maybe Saturday mornings. It really is different for everybody. It's just about being realistic and thinking, if I were to teach, 4 to 5 hours a week, when could I do it in such a way that it doesn't impact on my quality of life at all? And to remember, there are billions of potential students.
Yes.
And so there will be people, and plenty of them, who will want to learn in the times that you set. So don't worry about there being a shortage of any kind.
Yeah. What's the next thing you would say?
So the next thing is to think about time zones, and to once you've realized what time of day, what days of the week, what hours that you want to teach, to think to yourself, okay, what regions of the world is that going to fit nicely? So for example, students often tend to want to study in the early morning their time and late afternoon, evening. And so you can do quite a simple calculation to think, well, if I want to do my teaching on Saturday mornings, then what areas, what time zones would fit that? So being in the UK, if I wanted to teach on a Saturday morning, then other students in Europe would most likely be a good fit. So then what you might decide to do is to advertise for lessons in France or Germany or Spain or something like that, not in South America, where it's still the middle of the night. And so if you can combine the hours that you want to teach with targeting the right kind of students, that's going to make it a lot easier for you to put your schedule in the right way.
One of the things I'm thinking about is with CALT, the trainees teach one lesson a week. And you're probably going to be teaching more than that when you start, you set up your own business. Should you go in with a lot of hours, or is it better to to hold back
Yeah, well,
initially.
the thing is that a lot of people find, and we see this time and time again, that the trainees who set up their businesses in the way that we teach, they have a lot of interest very quickly, and that can create this tension we talked about earlier, whereby you want to accept everyone, but you really can't. Best advice is to go slow and give it time. So rather than opening up the doors to everybody, simply say, you know what, I'm comfortable doing 1 hour a day after work or 3 hours at the weekend. Stick to that. Do it for a few weeks, few months. Get comfortable. Give it time, and that's the best foundation you can build, because you will get confidence. In the meantime, you'll figure out the logistics. You'll get comfortable teaching, and it also means that generally, if you make less available, less time, fewer time slots available, the demand for your lessons is going to increase, because people want to learn with you, but they can't because you don't make the time available.
And starting a bit more slowly as well, and you're not planning so many hours of lessons, that's going to benefit your student as well. So you can spend a bit more time planning for every lesson you teach.
I mean, you can only imagine when my student was teaching his Chinese students at 3 in the morning. I mean, the quality of the lesson, I'm sure he did a great job, but let's be honest, you're not going to do your best
too
work
tired to teach,
at 3 a.m.
So they're the key things we need to think about when designing a dream lifestyle.